Welcome to the Second Bite Podcast, where we talk with top entrepreneurs and CEOs about creating valuable companies through creative transactions. Now, let's get started with the show.
Welcome to the Second Bite Podcast, and welcome to our guest today, Scott Scully from Abstrakt Marketing. Scott, great to have you with us. I'm excited for our conversation today.
Thanks for having me, Tom. Looking forward to it.
Hey, so this is part of our Going It Alone series. And I must say, Abstrakt has been going it alone for what, 15 years? Ish?
Yep, we started really towards the end of 2009. So getting close.
Yeah, in 15 years, man, you guys have accomplished a lot from a whole bunch of different perspectives. I'm typically focused on the financial perspectives. We can unpack that in a little bit. But you've really built a hell of a business. And so I'm interested to kind of get into that because I think there's a lot of good lessons here. Let's start at the beginning. Can you just tell me who Abstrakt is, who you serve, and what you do for them?
Yeah. So Abstrakt Marketing Group is, I think the best way to put it is that we are an outsourced sales enablement company. So everything that you would need to do to identify and warm up a prospect before sale, we do on an outsourced basis. Most of our business is B2B in a few specialty niches. We've got a phone and an email lead generation solution, basically to set appointments in the beginning stages of the sales process. We have an SEO product where we're building websites, creating content, and causing more inbound leads. We have got a whole creative division that's creating assets for sales teams like sell sheets and PowerPoints and video. And then, more recently, as our clients have had difficulty identifying great people, we were already doing a ton of recruiting as it is. So we started a recruiting division. So we're actually recruiting talent for our clients. And then another offshoot, just because of the nature of what we do, is our cloud solutions division, which is Sapper Consulting, where we're helping people build out their individual instances and making sure that they get the most out of their investment in their Salesforce platform.
And you say you're helping people, you're obviously helping companies.
Right.
How do you think about that? Do you think about it by vertical? Do you think about it, because I know you work in a lot of verticals. Do you think about it by size? Is there a typical customer for you guys?
Yeah. So we have about 2,000 clients nationwide. We work in every state. And, I would say that a big portion of our business is actually small to medium size, not the larger. And I would say that our typical client pays a retainer in the realm of $4,000 a month or so. So we really built the business wanting to be spread across multiple industries, in every state, of a certain size, no huge clients, because we just wanted to build a safe business.
Yeah. Residual,
income that people didn't have to be worried about their jobs and they could see growth forward.
So I'm not a mathematician, but if I multiply 4,000 a month by 2,000, that comes out to about 80, 70, 80-ish million of revenue. Is that a good guess?
So 80 is the stretch goal for the year we're in.
For 23? Okay.
For 2023, we're definitely going to be north of 70. And
no empty calories in there. That's real revenue, no media buy, no pass through, no nonsense.
Absolutely. Correct. Yes.
That's an incredible job in 15 years. And there, as you know, because you know the space, there's lots of folks in this space that have been at it for a dozen or 15 years that aren't nearly your size. If you were to point to one or two reasons why you're dramatically larger than most, what would you come up with?
Well, that's a good question. I would say that We're not perfect. I think what we've done is we've found solutions that will take you 80% of the way. The other 20%, I like to say the other 20% is really expensive. So, for a small retainer fee, we will do maybe the first, second, and third things you should do. And, the fourth and fifth and sixth, we don't do.
And what are those fourth, fifth, and sixth things?
Well, I'm just saying, for instance, if I'm doing lead gen for you, I've got a way in which we onboard you, pull lists, have call guides, a process that we follow. And we do that over and over and over again in, let's say, the IT space. But if you wanted me to be completely customized, and have a bunch of individual SDRs that are 100% dedicated to you, completely change the messaging, create a whole different process, that's when it gets expensive. That's when we become boutique-like. And I think that we've had our success by saying, here's what our solution is. Here's what it is every time. Here's what it costs. And we're going to put together one hell of a sales team, and we're going to sell contracts, no projects, and we're going to sell a ton of it, and then put a real good delivery and account management team in place. And that's what we've done.
And is it a lot easier for you when you're focused in a vertical or two?
It is. And I should say it's also been enormous for us in the fact that we offer exclusivity. So for instance, well, if I'm working in Cleveland and managed service providers, IT is one of our niches, we're going to work with one in that area to run our process with. Okay. Or one roofer or one commercial cleaning client. And so in our market development process, it helps the sales cycle because we'll use our SDRs to call Cleveland, call the best managed service providers, line up meetings with 6 or 8 of them, go through that market development process and come out at the end of 2 weeks partnering with one. And that sense of urgency and the fact that they can run a process really against their closest competitors.
Pretty attractive.
That sits well with them.
I would imagine so. Imagine so. Is this the future of digital marketing, or is this just going to be an enhancement to digital marketing for some folks that don't want it internal?
Wow. There's so much happening, isn't there? They would tell you and I that AI is going to run everything and we should all get out of the way. But there are things that are involved in digital marketing where AI will help. You can generate a heck of a lot of content in half the time. So that's going to be interesting. I would say that most people will probably outsource their digital marketing just because of how fast things are changing these days. And they're really going to need to connect with somebody that, is in the know, been there, done that, always studying, knows Google algorithms, when those are going to change and how that could impact the business. Man, if somebody's doing it internally, they're a larger company for sure.
Yeah, because I guess at the end of the day, I don't really even care about marketing. I just care about new customers.
Right.
And if they're warm and they're on the phone, that's where I'm trying to get to anyways. Is that kind of how you guys see the world?
The way that I see the world is that nobody likes the beginning stages of the sales process. They never have and they never will. And we here are taking all of our solutions and eventually building or bringing them all into one low price solution where it doesn't really matter what channel. I may connect with you via email. I might catch you on the phone, might be on social. I might create content, so that when you search, we've driven a website up to the top of the search rankings and you submit a form. To us, it's really going to be about multi-channel and staying on top of the changes within each one of those channels. But like you said, at the end of the day, warming up the prospects that matter most and delivering them to our clients when they're raising their hand and saying they're ready to buy.
Yep. We were fortunate to help a couple folks in the BDR space with transactions last year, and they saw, I think, much more of an acceptance of the kind of BDR concept because of COVID, right? I used to say, I got to have them here in the office, and now I don't have an option to keep them here in the office. And now that I realize that still works, it frees up everything, I guess. Did you guys see a bump from that or an acceptance from that in your business?
Maybe a little. I would say COVID and just getting through some of the changes of the world like that really showed people that lack of a predictable sales pipeline could be super damaging to their business, right? So all of a sudden people were losing clients left and right for whatever reason. Their client went out of business or shut down, and they didn't have enough new sales meetings go forward to make up for their loss. And so the messaging actually was easier. It was first like, wait a minute, I can't even do outreach. I'm closed down. And then when we flipped the conversation to, well, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do now? What are you going to do after the fact? You got to be doing the work now so that you can build up your pipeline so that if you do lose a client, you can replace it. Or if you ever do want to grow, you may need, 2 clients for every one you lose. You got to do your business development formula, know exactly where you're at today, where you're going, and how you're going to get there. And the conversation has been a little bit easier for us. Again, it's people hate the beginning stages of the sales process.
Yeah, that will always be the case. Probably, you're right.
And I think the market's more competitive. People are losing more clients than they had before. Mm-hmm. And so actually having more new sales meetings go forward is even more important to businesses out there. So,
all right. So enough about Abstrakt. I want to talk to Scott, the CEO, right? You're running a great business. I'm sure you get weekly calls. I don't know if calls get through to you, but I'm sure you get weekly calls from private equity. We'll circle back to that in a second. You're obviously thinking about acquisition because you picked up Sapper, and I want to talk about that. But as we take a couple steps into this, from a macro level, how do you think about M&A and why? And then let's talk about why Sapper was your first one.
Great. So when you say why, you mean why I've taken the approach I've taken, or just the global landscape itself?
I want to hear about you. I mean, why? Okay. So you're at 70-ish million this year.
Yeah.
Why? And that, whatever that system is, has been working well. So now why are we going to mix in M&A?
So, we've done really 2 different things in Abstrakt in this organization. They've both been creative in nature. The first one was very early on, ran into my partner, Jason, who had an initial concept of an outbound appointment setting program, and got it off the ground, just had a few people and a few clients, and was just really looking for help. And we brought him into the fold. Really, we were so small, and it was right at the beginning for free rent and consulting, and just other things like human resources and banking relationships, accounting, things like that. The bigger one was Sapper. I guess we're coming up on 2 years where they've been part of the family. That one, they were doing, just shy of $20 million in revenue. So that investment was going to be significant. I had talked to the owner of Sapper for a few years before that. We're both from St. Louis. We would talk about space, get together, have dinner. And I'd always talk to him about joining forces because it was complementary services. We were doing, all phone call work. They were literally doing it 100% via email. The two of them together are really what works the best. And we ended up putting together a scenario where there was some money up front, some money after year one, performance wise, some money after year two, performance wise, and then shares in the overall entity.
The mothership, so to speak.
Yeah.
And can you give me an idea just on a percentage basis what the percentage were for what was equity and what was down payment and then 1 and 2?
Yeah. So really what ended up happening is he got, let's just call it all the cash all in over those periods is $10 million. Okay. So it was, $5 million up front, $2.5 million in each chunk, and then 8% of the overall entity.
The mothership. Could you
now he would do that. He would do that because he was somebody that wanted to be part of a larger team and build something significant. And so, and
he's focused on the second bite and bigger.
His 8% down the road becomes way more than the 10 or the, let's call it 20, maybe, that he would have got in a traditional way.
Good point. Okay. So can I quick, I'm sorry, you finished that.
Go ahead.
So quick piece of advice. Is there anything you learned or would give advice or do differently on the earnout? Either how you structured it, how complicated you made it or didn't make it, or any of that stuff?
Yeah. There were things that we needed to do to tweak the business.
His business.
To tweak his business. Not only to tweak his business, but really to integrate it into ours as well. And some of those things were disruptors to just full forward. I need to hit the number, to get my earnout. And so there was, an individual that was there thinking, but I got a number to hit. And if we do this, it may be the right thing to do for the business, but it's going to be an interrupter for a few months and I'm going to have a harder time hitting my number.
Yeah.
And so actually what ended up happening, because things like that kept occurring, is we just repositioned the numbers that he needed to hit and said, hey, let's get on with it.
Yeah.
Like he cares about the overall business. We know that. Let's make sure he gets his chunks. There's been enough of a proving point. Let's get him. Really, he was going to get 10%. He got 8. So there was a time period where we switched the number and we took the 10 to 8. Everybody was awesome. Let's move forward and do the things we need to do to the business. So if my learning point, I guess, would be, if I'm going to have certain type of earnout, you're either going to leave it alone and let it run its course for 2 years before integration, or there's going to be a whole different kind of earnout, knowing that I'm going to maybe internalize things and maybe pause for a minute to do some things that we need to do the business to make it even more powerful go forward. I would have thought through more how that earnout worked.
I think it's
more
helpful.
Successful there.
Yeah, I think it's helpful for people to know that earnout and integration are always in conflict, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's helpful to know that if there's an earnout, the seller, rightfully so, is 100% focused on getting that earnout. So that earnout really should be aligned with what the buyer wants that business to accomplish, right? From that standpoint. I also think it's great now that you have the wisdom of 2 years on, that you can look back and say, in a good acquisition, the little stuff doesn't much matter, right? I mean, it's been such a great win for Robert, such a great win for Abstrakt. the little dollars that were floating around at the time were probably well invested in making sure your partner feels like this is a good place for him to be.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd both done our research going into it. In fact, he was out, he went through a process, was out in the marketplace entertaining different offers. So he knew what was out there. I don't think he felt like he was leaving anything off the table getting into the relationship. And then when we really started talking about what it could become, the difference between 10% or 8% or, when he got that first chunk was insignificant compared to what we could all create. So there was some trust there.
And let me ask you, was the approach that the deal took, was it that he came to you and said, listen, Scott, this is the best offer I have. If you can match it, we'll do a deal? Or did you just make the offer? Can you tell us a little bit about what you remember from that?
Yeah, he said, here's what I've run into so far. And I'll never forget, we were sitting in a conference room, kind of whiteboarding some things. And then I learned what he was interested in the most, and not the most, but I knew what was a deal killer. Like I knew that he wanted to lock in the 10 million.
Yeah.
Right. And he didn't necessarily care about it being up front. He just wanted to know that he was going to get his 10 million.
Yeah.
Right. So then I had the ability to break that up over a couple of years in different ways. And then he was totally open to how the rest came and, very interested in, staying and becoming a shareholder in the mothership. And it just allowed us to put a pretty significant deal together without a bunch of cash up front.
And so, when I think about it though, I'm going to guess, and the actual numbers aren't that important, but Abstrakt was probably 30 or 40 million. You're buying a company that's 20. You're putting up 10 million. What was that like for you?
Well, we put up 5.
Well, you put up 5, right? You committed to 10. I know you had an earnout, but there's still, where'd the 5 come from?
We have always been smart financially. And then I'll tell you, I'll be honest, not only were we good at saving, we also got PPP money and got through it, because we have so many employees, we got a significant amount and we figured out how to get through those days, not burning through that.
Right.
So we had the money for the initial, yeah. And we have good bank relationship. And then we haven't, we've used the profit. We used the profits of that new entity to pay the loan,
to pay the debt
over those 2 years for the additional chunks of 2.5.
Beautiful. So now here we sit in middle of 23. It seems to me when I talk to a lot of guys, when they think about, let's talk about M&A now for the future of Abstrakt.
Mm-hmm.
It's either oftentimes they want to take what they do and apply it to a vertical, or they want to take what they do and add an additional service line, kind of like you did with Sapper. How are you thinking about that? Like, as you think about this would be really attractive, particularly for fans at home that might be listening. How are you thinking about what's going to be next?
Inbound marketing or SEO is a huge leg in our process. We've been doing the phone call stuff forever. We just added a significant piece in the email marketing, and we do have a nice division where we build websites and create content. But that's the first thing that I would look at.
SEO
is a digital marketing firm, someone to help us with ongoing content, local SEO, paid search, social.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Got
we're super interested in that going forward, as opposed to, building that 100%
Yeah.
internally.
And what would be second from a service standpoint?
Somebody that's doing some significant things with data, or call center.
Okay.
We've
Inbound
talked
call center.
outbound.
Okay.
We have a couple hundred people right now making outbound sales calls, but we'd love to get them super focused on a piece of that once we've qualified the decision maker, and we spend a lot of time doing cleansing.
Mm-hmm.
So the thought is, and then we also turn down a ton of actual call center work that people ask us to do. So a call center scenario we've entertained to do the cleansing pieces of our lead gen process, plus have the ability to take on some of the work that is offered.
Got it. And then do you think about the world from a vertical standpoint? And again, on the website, I know you got a lot, and I know you got experience in a lot. Is there a place where you feel like if we could expand into that vertical, we'd be pretty excited?
Yeah, we have 20 core niches, and then of course, we've got that we're growing. We have sequences. Our sales enablement department is after these significantly, and those core niches came from doing it, figuring out that the ROI is there for our clients, figuring out we could deliver, and then we take that niche, put it into our sales process, identify the top 100 markets, and start going after our exclusivity pitch. Some of those managed service providers, roofing, construction, HVAC. We've really got a big play around the facilities manager in an organization.
In the commercial.
Well, that facilities manager in a business is talking about the roof, talking about the cleaning, the flooring, any ongoing construction, HVAC. So we've built really complementary niches around the decision maker in that space, being the
decision maker being different from the homeowner, right? You're B2B.
We're B2B. Yeah.
B2B.
So a facilities manager in a larger company is the one that is talking to vendors about the commercial cleaning or the roofing or the construction. So we are selling in niches that surround that facilities manager because it's just been a successful route for us.
Sure.
Yeah.
So other than that, any other verticals? Are you open to any vertical that's B2B?
We're open to verticals where somebody can recoup their investment and then some year one. That's how we keep clients for the long haul. So they either have to be a construction company where when they sell, a job from one of our appointments, the margin is such that they could pay for a year of our service, or the MRR that somebody brings on, like a managed service provider, an IT company, if they bring on
lifetime value of the customer. Right. Yeah. Got it. So let's take a step back then. Private equity calls you, like I said, weekly, probably multiple times a week. And you've decided to just continue to grow it on your own. Is there a main driver for why? Are you just not interested, don't need it? Or is it more that we're concerned that private equity will change us in this way or that way?
I think that so far, just because of the way that we set up our business, we've been able to do it on our own. I'm not closed-minded to it at all. I know that you do what you do because you're good at it. That's the only thing that you do, right? You specialize in it, and you could certainly help vet out companies, help put together certain financing pieces, put creative deals together, make nice matches. I think that we would consider it going forward if, let's say, I mentioned digital marketing. Let's say that there was a significant player out there and it took a more traditional approach and we had to put 30 million up, to acquire them. I think we'd look that route.
Yeah.
If someone's not willing to put a creative deal together or doesn't want to be part of the mothership and is just looking for kind of that traditional, or they're just looking to get out and move on, then I think that never been against it.
Okay. So as I kind of wind us down, what do you think is the most, and it'll be a little bit difficult because the relationship, the long-term relationship you have with Robert, but what would you say is the most important characteristic in the other party that helps you decide if they'd be the right fit to be part of Abstrakt?
Well, for us, it is grit. It is flexibility. Like honestly, we're where we are today because if something isn't working, we don't really hang on it for very long, and we're pretty mobile. And not everybody loves change, so he had to like at least be okay with change. He had to be a grinder because that's what we do here. We're not really taking days off and not working. So, he's still young and hungry. And so that was good because he wasn't at the end of his career and just kind of worn out and ready to get out. Intelligence, somebody just with a lot of experience in the space that just has a vision as well. Those are some of the things.
That's super helpful.
Yeah.
Let me wrap up with this question. I used to ask it all the time and I forgot to do it. And somebody reminded me the other day that they really liked it. So you've obviously been very successful in your business and, in the community and your family life and the rest. Is there one or two people and or experiences or books that you would point to say this had a significant impact or an outsized impact in who you are today and where the company is today?
Sure. I was lucky to have two hard-working parents, different backgrounds. My dad was in banking and my mom ran an art museum, but so creative and conservative and interesting mix, right? But they both believe that you need to do it right the first time and put your all into something. And so the work ethic and the creativity and the organization, I just had a real nice start from them. Working wasn't an option, so I was working at a very early age and getting pushed by them. And then I had a lot of work experiences, quite frankly, through high school, through college, and just was lucky to run into, I grew up in Iowa, great work ethic there anyway. And I just had a lot of driving bosses, so when I was through college and onto my career, I just didn't know anything other than work your ass off. And so that was just in it for me. I
think they call those Midwestern values, right?
Right. Yeah. Do it or else.
Yeah.
and then, we hand out a book called The One Thing here. And I, especially when I was younger, I read, hundreds of books, and now I'm more apt to take on a video or podcast or blog. But this one thing really wrapped things up nicely for me. And it's like the principle that I love is that we all build these to-do lists, right? And a lot of times the most important things on that list are the things that get carried over to the next day. So you're scratching things off to just get 8 of the 10 things done. The 2 hardest things or uncomfortable things carry on to the next day. And this book is really helping you identify, the one thing professionally, in your family, spiritually, friendship wise, that if you got that done by the end of the day, then that'd be a good day.
Successful day.
And really building a success list instead of a to-do list, and doing that thing that really knocks off probably 80% of the list anyway. And I think that's the difference between, people realizing some level of success and people still trying, is the prioritization of tasks that matter and being able to eliminate the noise and focus on getting the most important things done each day. And that book, super easy to read, kind of took all these principles that I was taking in from all over the place and really drove it home deep. So that's one book.
That's a great one, man. I appreciate you sharing that, and great to shout out to your parents. This has really been a helpful episode. What I would like to do is, first of all, thank you for your time and for your
Thank you.
Number 2, I'd like to come back after I read about your next acquisition and really do a breakdown on it, because you were really helpful and maybe when things are more recent, we can get into some specifics. Number 3, I would like to be the guy to help you with finding that next acquisition. So we'll talk about that offline.
Sounds
but I
good.
will say, Scott, this has really been helpful. You have a podcast as well called The Grow Show. Give me a 30-second promo on that.
So it is Jeff Winters, Eric Watkins, and myself. Jeff's our Chief Revenue Officer. Eric is our President. And we go through just principles of business growth. The whole deal was we wanted to talk about things that are working for us and make it just a little bit easier for people that are on their journey. And we laugh a lot and talk about things we screw up and talk about why we believe in some of these principles. And we wanted to provide something for our clients that they could listen to. We wanted to provide something for our internal folks so that they understand the reasons why we're doing what we're doing. And then if it helps in the nurture process of us trying to bring on new clients, that's great too. But we just wanted to help people with their business growth. And it's been fun, about a year so far.
Excellent. And finally, shout out to Jeremy Weiss, who connected us. Jeremy is the one that produces our podcast and does a remarkable job. So Jamie, thanks for pulling us together. And Scott, thank you so much for making time. And be interesting to come back to you at a not too distant future and hear about acquisition number 2 in a successful 2023.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Second Bite podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.